Hello and welcome everyone. This is Kaylin's English podcast. This podcast is designed for English learners. I'm here to help you practice your listening skills. I'm Kaylin, a professional English teacher on italki. This episode is part 2 of me talking about the best year of my life thus far. Here's a recap of part 1. I started planning my wedding even more after the death of a family member. It was not an easy process, but things were coming together. I left off explaining that we got our wedding venue for free, and I thought things would get easier from there. As we finally had a ceremony location, we began thinking about the various things we may need to pull this off. I figured we would need to find chairs as we have some elderly relatives that cannot stand for too long. We found a reasonably priced company and ensured that things could be refunded if the weather would not be very good on the day. As the wedding drew nearer, I made my own bouquets and boutonnieres. They turned out better than anticipated, as I am an amateur at flower arrangements. I also was able to make my own customized guest book. I bought a cheap guest book and covered it in my favorite fabric and ribbon. As a nice bonus, my mother gave me my grandma's brooch to attach to it as well. I was extremely happy with how things were turning out. When June finally arrived, we packed up the vehicle and headed to Georgia. We drove overnight to our destination wedding. We arrived a few days early to get settled in and to finally figure out where on the grounds we wanted to get married. We stayed in a condominium complex with my in-laws and my fiancé's grandfather. My family stayed in a condominium altogether, which means 10 people shared a 3-bedroom place. 2 of them were small children. We had a total of 32 people attending our wedding, which was more than we wanted. We only really wanted immediate family and close friends. However, one of my in-laws' family friends invited themselves. My mother-in-law had a usual lunch date with her friends, and this person said that surely she and her husband were invited, as she was practically family. So my mother-in-law could not say no. My fiancé and I were both really annoyed by this, but there was nothing we could do, as no one was brave enough to tell her that she was not invited. The day before the wedding, my sister, my mom, future mother-in-law, cousin, and I went to get our nails done for the wedding. It was fun getting our toenails and nails done, and they looked great at the end. That evening, we had a pre-wedding dinner at one of our favorite restaurants on the island. Everyone was invited, and it was a great time with delicious food. The restaurant is a steak place that is inside what looks like an old red barn. It is a great place that is full of history. That day, we also decided to cancel the chairs as everyone was fine with standing, as the ceremony was going to be short. That night, I accidentally bumped my nose and gave myself a bruise on the bridge of it. Perfect timing to have a bruise that is highly visible. The wedding day finally arrived. That morning, it was raining. We were a bit afraid that we might have to bring the ceremony inside. I put that out of my mind and went to get my hair done with my mom. When we arrived at the salon, the rain stopped. When my hair was done, we returned to the condominium complex to get the rest of the way ready. My fiancé was nowhere to be found. He had gone out with his best man for a mini bachelor party. When he returned, I had my makeup done, which I did myself. Luckily, you could not see the bruise on my nose. I greeted him, and he said I looked beautiful. I thanked him, and I told him he needed to be ready in about 30 minutes. He was a bit drunk, but we both knew he was going to be fine for the ceremony. We were able to have our wedding outside, as it was no longer raining and the ground was dry. We decided to have the ceremony on one of the bridges that was surrounded by a pond. My dad walked me down the aisle, which was not an aisle, but more of a walkway, and the ceremony was short but sweet. Everyone could hear my husband's cousin perform the ceremony, but no one could hear us, which was perfectly fine. It was actually funny, as his cousin joked about it. The wedding went great, and the after-party was fun. We had barbecue catered from a local barbecue place that was featured on television. Everyone enjoyed the food. The day after the wedding, my husband and I got extremely sunburned, as the weather was perfect. When we finally left Georgia, I drove us back to Ohio, pretty much the entire way, as he could not wear a seatbelt as it hurt his burnt shoulders. We had our reception with the rest of our family and friends about 2 weeks after our wedding. It went well, even though some of the people did not actually attend when they said they would. Not long after our wedding, my husband got accepted into 2 universities out of the country, one in Australia and one in England. We had to make a decision, and we chose England. We applied for our visas, and within a month, we got them. Less than 3 months after we had gotten married, we had taken a cruise ship from New York to Southampton, England. The cruise took 6 nights, and it was an amazing experience. After we arrived in Southampton, we took 2 trains to Leeds. We arrived at a place that we chose to live, but left shortly after arrival, as it was not fit for living in. We lived in a hotel for about 2 weeks until we had a place to move into. I found a job about a month or so after finding a place to live. We were settling in nicely. We made new friends and got comfortable with our new home. For New Year's Eve, we went to London and had a great time there. After everything that we went through, we were finally starting our lives together as a married couple. I think that is enough details about my best year thus far. This was the best year because I married an amazing man who continues to surprise me every day. We have both grown a lot since we first met, especially after we got married and took the leap of faith and moved far from home. Despite all of our ups and downs, it was overall the best year ever. This is enough for one episode. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about my experience of 2012, which is the best year of my life thus far. That is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like more content, then please subscribe to this podcast. You can also support me on Patreon. Find me by typing in Kaylin Teacher. On Patreon, you can gain early access to the podcast and transcriptions. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Kaylin_teacher. Thank you for listening. I hope you all have a great day. Until next time, bye!